Welcome to the Working Woman Report. I'm Allison Hans. Today we're speaking with two fascinating women about their initiatives to encourage and support women in their careers. Shelly, a successful businesswoman and former chief executive of a Hollywood research firm, created the female quotient as a way of improving gender equity in the workplace. But before we speak with Shelly, I'd like to introduce you to Anne Choquette, former editor-in-chief of 17 magazine and author of the book, The Big Life. In it, she describes the ideas and life hacks that many millennial women have developed on their journeys to enter the workforce. Well, Anne, thank you so much for joining us here today.
I'm thrilled to be here. It's an amazing event.
Now tell me a little bit about your book. It came out earlier this year, The Big Life. What is The Big Life?
The Big Life is a guide for millennial women to help them get everything they ever wanted out of life. This generation of young women is profoundly different than a generation that has come before them. They don't want to sit still and wait to get promoted. They don't want to move up in a straight line. They want twists and turns and adventure in their career. They want a relationship that feels like a partnership. They want to change the rules for how work works. But the strange thing is that as strong and as dynamic and as imaginative as this generation of young women is, they feel stuck. They feel stymied. They feel like they don't have role models. They feel like they don't have guideposts. They see the world differently. And when you see the world differently, it's hard to be a pioneer. It's hard to carve a new path. And so that's where The Big Life comes in. It is the guide for helping you work your side hustle, embrace the mess, and become the badass babe that you are meant to be.
So what was inside of you that wanted you to write about millennial women? Were you seeing issues with people around you, or?
So this generation of young women grew up with me. I was editor-in-chief of 17 magazine for the better part of a decade. And I was there from the very beginning when they saw the world differently. It happened right after the recession, right? The economy was booming and everyone wanted to be blonde and tan and like Lauren Conrad in the hills and live in Southern California and drive a Mercedes SUV, and affluence seemed easy. We had a terrible recession, everybody remembers. And the financial rug was pulled out from under the feet of these young women who were just coming into their own. And college wasn't a sure thing, their parents were laid off, jobs were impossible to find. But rather than see their horizons get smaller, this generation of women was mobilized. They started getting internships in high school and starting businesses in college. And so I could see it from where I was sitting at 17, where in 1 year, dozens of requests to give speeches about how to get started in business to teenagers. And so when I left 17, I knew that what needed to be said for the next generation, the next phase of their life, right? Now that these women are in their 20s and 30s, they see work differently. And frankly, I think we should all be more millennial. It's incredibly inspiring the way that they are changing the game for all of us.
But sometimes the millennials get a bad rap. I know they're
lazy, disloyal, entitled. You know, when you say that they're lazy, I think that they are just looking for strategic ways to use their resources, right? Why get up and run a package across town when you've got TaskRabbit? When you say disloyal, I ask, are companies even loyal to them? And for entitled, I believe 100% they are entitled to everything. But so are we. So is everyone else. And that they are lighting a path for us all to stay young and hungry and ambitious and flexible and open, and it's really they are changing the way work works.
It's so incredibly refreshing to see successful execs like Anne embrace the vision of a younger generation and remain open-minded on how to approach life and career. Coming up after the break, Anne shares with us millennial secrets to success and how being a rule breaker seems to be the next big thing.
The only game in town is right here at Resorts World Casino in Queens. We have over 5,000 games on 2 spacious floors, plus great dining and entertainment.
New members can win up to $1,000 by playing Hit Me Blackjack. Take a hit. Take a spin. Take away free play. Earn points for gaming, dining, and shopping.
Resorts World Casino, New York City. Come play, dine, and unwind.
Where high values drive high demand. Where getting ahead comes from giving back. Where the education earns national recognition. Where? Here at Malloy College. Money Magazine's #1 value all-star in the nation.
Welcome back to the Working Woman Report. I'm Allison Hans. We're talking with author Anne Choquette. Anne reveals more insights into the views and perspectives of millennial women, their opinions about the Me Too movement, and how her Badass initiative came about. So when we talk about this age range of millennials, what are we talking?
I think we're talking about like 21 to 34-year-olds, right? The young women who were born in the 80s and 90s. But the changes that they're leading, the always-on nature of social media that they grew up with means that they are demanding transparency. And this transparency is what's blowing the top off of, current events like crazy right now, right? But it's also going to lead us all closer to equal pay because salary transparency. They are happy to share salary information with their friends. You're not getting away with any secret dealings anymore. Right? They want freedom from the office. They don't want to have regular hours that are 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 or 9 to 9. And that's going to get us all closer to a conversation about how your work and your life fit together. And the change that I've been most inspired by is they have replaced this old idea of competition among women with collaboration. That now that there's room at the table for more women, they are bringing their friends along with them. It's their sisterhood and it's their squad, and they're endlessly devoted to helping each other achieve and succeed. That's a message for all of us.
What has the response been to the book so far?
So the book came out earlier this year, and I've been blown away by the response, honestly, from women of all ages, that this is not just the big life for millennials, that this is the big life for all. They felt inspired by the message of the big life. And so when I get those comments or when I get those emails or messages on my website, that is what keeps me going. I see the sparks of a revolution happening here because women want to change the way we see power and success. They want to redefine their life on their own terms.
I'd love to know how you've changed over the years.
In order to write the book, I had a series of dinners at my house, probably 24 dinners over the course of 2 years. I call them the Badass Babes dinners. And it was 6 or 8 women around my dining room table. We had fancy frozen pizza and many bottles of rosé. And I don't cook, so that's it. When I say fancy frozen pizza, that's it. And
I relate.
Yeah, totally. The conversations around my dining room table with these young women were so revelatory, game-changing. They opened my mind up, and I felt like, well, this is a generation I know. We grew up together. I was editor-in-chief of the magazine that they were reading as they grew up. And yet the conversation was deeper and more meaningful and more nuanced than I ever could have imagined. And I learned from them I learned secrets to success. I learned ways to navigate the workplace. I learned the power of sisterhood. I rely so tremendously on my own sisterhood these days. I am living my life as millennially as possible. I am enjoying the freedom that comes with being free from a traditional corporate structure. I am being as transparent as I can about my wins and my losses. And I'm relying on my sisterhood. It has been a game changer for me.
So what are those secrets to success? I know that's a general question, but if you're getting out of school, you have huge student loans, you're trying to get a job, there's so much, I think, that young women are battling up against.
You have to embrace the mess. A big life is a messy life, and the more you try to keep everything neat and orderly, the more anxiety you're going to create. Young women have to say yes to everything: coffee dates, meetups, after work drinks. They have to raise their hand to say yes for a new assignment. They have to be the woman at work who is indispensable. And when you are saying yes to everything, your life is a disaster. But you have to see that mess as the energy, the momentum, the mojo that's keeping you moving closer to your dream. You have to rely on your sisterhood and your squad. You need a team of women who are devoted to helping you achieve and succeed. And most importantly, you have to pay attention to the itch. The itch is this feeling that there's something better out there for you. And very often you'll feel in a personal relationship. You'll be like, this guy I'm dating, I'm not sure, right? But that same feeling of dissatisfaction that keeps you looking for the next right partner is the same thing that's going to keep you moving forward in your career, knowing that there's something more, something better, something else, something stronger, something more meaningful that's out there for you.
In light of all of the allegations of sexual harassment and what we're going through with the Me Too movement, what is your advice to a young woman navigating her way through today's society?
You know, what I've been so inspired by young women in particular, is how they are using their voice. They are using the power of their voice to make change, to say when something isn't right, to find their sisterhood and to find alliances that matter to them. And, you know, I felt there were some dark days for women earlier this year, and I was worried. I thought that maybe we would be silenced, or maybe young women have to wait for those dreams to come true. But they have told me again and again they are not waiting. They don't want permission to grab the thing they want in life, to take control of their own destiny. And that's what I've been most inspired by around Me Too, is how young women in particular know that they deserve to be heard. And that's really inspiring.
What's up next for you?
I am building a network and a sisterhood of my own, the Badass Babes. Everybody should go sign up at AnnShowket.com. Join the newsletter for the Badass Babes so we can stay in touch and we can continue to build this network of women who are demanding life on their own terms.
So what is the Badass Babes? So you sign up, and what's going to happen?
You connect with other women who are also going through the same things that you are going through. It is a community of women who are helping each other through the trickiest bits of becoming the woman that you're meant to be.
And what is your definition of badass?
Oh, confident, rule-breaking, game-changing, and yet vulnerable and honest and open and authentic. You know, it is hard. It has been hard for me to learn to be so open and so authentic and so vulnerable. But I've been so inspired by the millennial women that I surround myself with that they don't want to hear the Instagrammy, all high fives, perfect filtered version of the story. They want it warts and all. And I think that that's actually, we do ourselves a disservice when we gloss over the parts of the journey that are hard. Because it's hard to do big things. So I'm on the path to doing something big.
And so when you're talking about authenticity, has that been difficult for you to drill down and get authentic?
The hard part is the transparency, right? That I grew up in an industry, in the magazine industry, that was image making and PR spin, and it's very often my first instinct to gloss it over or to find the way to smooth the edges. But I've also found great power in being honest about the times where things were hard or didn't go my way or there was a mountain to climb.
So your last bit of advice for young women out there, how they can achieve and move forward?
You deserve the big life. That's the first step. Know that you deserve it. You deserve life on your own terms. You deserve success the way you want to see it.
Well, Ann, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
So sign up for the Badass Movement and become part of this community of millennials trying to shape a future under their own terms. Get your mojo going. Stay active and say yes to leads and opportunities. As Ann puts it, work your side hustle and embrace the mess. We move on now to our next guest, Shelly Zalis, founder of The Female Quotient. an initiative whose mission is to advance gender equity in the workplace. We discuss why it's so difficult for so many companies to balance things out. Well, Shelly, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here, and I've already enjoyed our little brief conversation pre-roll.
Tell me what you're up to right now.
So, I started a company called the Female Quotient 2 years ago. We talk about diversity is good for business, but if diversity is good for business, why have we seen no progress? According to McKinsey, if we keep going at the pace we're going, it'll take over 118 years to realize gender parity in the C-suite, which is really quite ridiculous. And when we look at the numbers, we see that we start 50-50. It's not the problem. We end at about 17 to 19% in the C-suite. It's in middle management that we fall out. We call it the messy middle. We drop significantly at that stage. And so I figured if diversity is good for business, then I need to be in the business of equality and help companies activate solutions for change and move us forward so that we can start creating accountability for change.
So with the Female Quotient, is this a situation where a company will come to you and say, hey, we need some help with our gender parity, and you will come in and help them? Is that?
Yeah, listen, the rules in the workplace, especially in Fortune 500 companies, were written over 100 years ago by men for men when women weren't really in the workplace. And yet we've never rewritten the rules for today's modern workforce. It's the first time we have over 5 generations in the workplace. Gen Z coming in, traditionalists moving out, but retiring later. And we still have policies like maternity leave or elective paternity leave, but what's it called when 2 men have a child together? What's that called? Elective paternity leave, men don't take it because it shows a sign of weakness. So we have to start asking ourselves the new questions and not be afraid to break some old rules, create some new ones, and advance change and accelerate it. So I started by creating something called the Girls Lounge, which is a pop-up space at industry conferences, predominantly men, for women to connect, collaborate, and activate change together. And we've built the largest community of corporate women. We have over 17,000 women from across Fortune 500 companies at very senior levels that work together to not just admire the problems, not just rally together to use our voices, but to also create solutions for change.
Well, I think it would be really great to take an example of a woman who's going up in her career, and then what happens and why can't they get back in?
There's a lot of different examples, but if you have children, it's in middle management that you start having work-life balance issues. So I really think it's a caregiver issue, and I don't call it a women's issue, because if a man has primary caregiving responsibility, he's going to be in the same situation. With work-life balance, how do you do it all? And that's when the stress starts kicking in, and when you have to start making choices, and when bias starts kicking in, unconscious or conscious. Who do you want to hire? Someone that can travel all the time, work 24/7, and doesn't have to worry about being home to go to take their kids to soccer or take care of their children when they're sick, whatever the situation is. So caregiving really kicks into play at that point. And then women have other issues with that voice in our head that makes us feel like we are not qualified to do all these things. If there's a job requirement that requires you to have 10 skills, if a guy can do 6 out of 10, he's like, yep, I got this. If a woman can't do all 10 out of 10, she says, I'm not qualified. So, we do a lot of confidence coaching for women. Shut that bitch up in your head, make it go away, and own your strength. Don't conform to the rules that make no sense or try to fit into the boys' club because you think that's what gets recognized and rewarded. Bring your unique strengths, to the workplace.
Interesting how women would only apply for a job only if they meet 100% of the criteria. Clearly, there's still a lot of work to be done to boost women's confidence and support them in the workplace. Coming up, we dig deeper into a common issue within organizations, the difficulties caregivers often face when trying to perform at work and at home.
The only game in town is right here at Resorts World Casino in Queens. We have over 5,000 games on 2 spacious floors, plus great dining and entertainment.
new members can win up to $1,000 by playing Hit Me Blackjack. Take a hit. Take a spin. Take away free play. Earn points for gaming, dining, and shopping.
Resorts World Casino, New York City. Come play, dine, and unwind.
Where high values drive high demand. Where getting ahead comes from giving back. Where the education earns national recognition. Where? Here at Malloy College. Money Magazine's #1 value all-star in the nation.
Welcome back to the Working Woman Report. I'm Allison Hans. We continue our conversation with Shelly as she reveals some groundbreaking and innovative techniques to retain top talent in your business. When you're taking care of kids or you're taking care of parents, what is a company supposed to do?
Why don't we do entry interviews? You know, what are you looking for when you come into a company, so that not only can we attract the best talent, but we can retain the best talent? And then I thought, what if we do life stage interviews? That we all at different stages of our life have different needs. And by the way, it costs a lot of money to replace talent. Work with me on helping me be my best self and my best employee through my journey. And you know what'll happen? A, I will be passionate about my job. You will keep me forever because you know me, you respect me, you're adjusting, you're customizing, you're personalizing for me. And technology today is our best friend. It's not the old school day and age where we lived in a linear world. We're living on a world with multitasking on steroids. You know, we can create flex schedules. We can use technology to engage. We don't need to fill in time clocks where, you know, we need to be here from 9 to 5, and those of us that stayed until midnight in our careers doing nothing, twiddling our thumbs because we thought that, you know, we looked like goody two-shoes. I mean, that's just stupid to me. It's dumb.
Can you tell me a company that gets it, that's doing it right?
Listen, I think there's a lot of companies doing a few things. I don't think there's any company that is perfect. I mean, I don't think perfection exists. But there are companies that have a conscious mindset of a modern workplace. So, I mean, Mark Benioff, the CEO of Salesforce, I am so inspired by him. He woke up one day, he said, technology is our best friend. He calls it the one-button push. He went in, said to HR, push the button and tell me where the inequity in pay is across the board. There was a $3 million pay gap. He fixed it, and now moving forward, that will never happen again. When you try to, we have legacy issues. Our pay gap, it's legacy issues. Women are just catching up. We're never going to catch up unless you stop, push the stop button, and start today moving forward with equality in your DNA and in every decision you make. Ask yourself the question, when I'm hiring this person, am I adding diversity of thought to my team? When we are bringing someone in and paying them, am I paying equal work for equal pay? Ask yourself a question when we hire a vendor. Do they have diversity in their workplace? Money talks. We can dictate these decisions. It's choice.
Talk about sexual harassment. Obviously, it's front and center right now. What are your feelings on what is taking place and where do we need to go?
We've been dismissive. We've been looking for excuses for why we are not activating change. So I'm thrilled that it started with breaking the silence, understanding that we do have some significant issues, you know, in the corporate world, or in workplaces in general, let's just put it that way, and that we need to create real consequence for bad behavior. We need to reinforce good behavior of conscious leadership and respect for one another, and we need to create accountability for change at every level. In our performance reviews, why shouldn't that be a criteria for being a good employee? So I think we need to start creating these step changes, measure them, celebrate them, create accountability, and not expect ourselves to change overnight, but we need to start uncovering the problems and then creating solutions for today and not looking at the negative. Because when you look at the negative, we start working in a more defensive approach. Let's just make our companies better today. Work on pay gap, work on bias training, work on sexual harassment training. We need to create a culture of care, a culture of safety, security, a culture where we all feel we belong, regardless of gender, race, or age.
Do you have any concern that there will be a backlash against women in terms of maybe women not being able to find a male mentor, or having going out for drinks, or that men will be scared to?
Yeah, listen, I think that men have to be part of the solution, because men and women, we're all good people. Not looking at the few bad apples and making that the new, rule. Those are exceptions. And so I think that we need to, understand that this is not women complaining for no reason. They're complaining because there is a problem.
Just to wrap up, do you think there's hope?
Of course there is.
Do you feel good about it?
I feel good that we are all open and conscious that we do need to implement change for the future, for our next generation, for our current, workforce, and I'm absolutely hopeful if we work together. I think that the power of collaboration is how we will activate the inspiration.
And it's been such a pleasure to have you today. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. There is hope on the horizon as we enter a new era in women's leadership. Initiatives like Shelly's and Ann's will surely raise women's confidence to speak up and make their ideas heard. We encourage men and women to partner up and create the next generation of businesses where equality and respect are intricate elements of their values. Well, that's all for this week's edition of the Working Woman Report. Be sure to connect with us in the social media world on Facebook and Twitter, and of course, our website, workingwomanreport.com. Tune in next time for more amazing stories on our fantastic women. Who knows? Maybe you're next. See you then.